You were introduced to the sum function much earlier in this title when we were looking at basic math in Excel. However, because the sum function is the one that you will use the most, it's worth exploring just a little bit more in detail. We're going to take the sales file in your working folder, and on the first sheet in there called retail sales, we have some retail sales for 8 shops for 7 days a week. And we're looking to add up the sales for shop 1. Now we know that the syntax for the sum function is equals sum. Notice as you start typing functions in Excel, they then start getting picked from a list. So it finds the sum function in that list. I then open brackets and I can highlight with my mouse the cells I would like to add up. So equals sum, open brackets, B2 colon B8. Now the syntax requires the brackets to be closed, but if I just press return, Excel will close the brackets for me, and I can go back to that cell, double click to edit, and I see the closed brackets are on the end. So it's equals sum, open brackets, B2 to B8. Now, because sum is the most used function, and quite commonly you want to add columns up, if I want to add shop 2 column up, I could type the function in because I know it, or I could click where I would like the total to go, and on the home ribbon there is a Greek sigma here that will automatically add in the sum function. All I need to do is click it once, and it gives me equals sum, open brackets, and it's making a suggestion. That's the range I would like, so I highlight that range, return, and the function is created. Alternatively, let's do a slightly different way with shop 3. If I highlight all the cells I would like adding up, and then click the sigma, it places the sum function in at the bottom for me. By double clicking, I can see the correct function. So that's the auto sum button. Now the auto sum button can work even faster than we're using it. I mean, it's great to be able to highlight a column, click the button, and it works out the sum for me. So it's not calculating the total and typing it in, it's actually placing the function in there. So if the values change, we see the result change. Now for the other remaining shops, if I actually highlight all of those shops, plus the empty row underneath where I would like the answers to go, and then go and click the auto sum button, it places all 4 functions in for me in one go. Now logically, you're thinking, I could have done all 8 that way. Well, you could. Now we can add up rows in the same way. We highlight the cells that we'd like it to add up, go for the auto sum button, and it places the total on the right. But if you want to check, you just edit the cell. Now the same logic applies to these rows as did for those columns. If I highlight Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and even the totals row plus the total column, and go for the auto sum, it makes the calculation and places the formula in each of those cells for me. Now the only reason that the auto sum button exists is because it is the most used function in Excel. They're trying to make life a little easier for you and faster. Now the sum function starts to get a little bit more useful if we're trying to add up non-consecutive cells. So these are consecutive. We simply say equals sum, open brackets, the first cell, colon, the last cell, and the whole range is picked up. If we look at the non-consecutive sheet, you'll see here we've got 3 sets of data. Bob, Alice, and Mary's fruit, veg, and meat consumption whilst they're at work. So these numbers represent units of fruit, units of veg, units of meat. What we'd like to do over here in the totals table is effectively add up all of the fruit eaten on Monday by Bob, Alice, and Mary. So that's adding up that cell, and that cell. Well, these cells are not consecutive, so I can't just say equals sum, open brackets, B2 colon B12, or that will add up all of this range here, and therefore include Alice's veg and meat, and Bob's veg and meat. So instead, we go where we'd like the function to appear. We can use equals sum, because we want to add up, open brackets. I then select the first cell, type a comma, select the second cell, type a comma, select the third cell, and I've got 3 non-consecutive cells selected. I could close my brackets, or I could just press return and let Excel put the close bracket on, and it comes to 13. 4 plus 5 plus 4 is 13. And I can do the same for the veg. Equals sum, open brackets, Bob's veg, comma, Alice's veg, comma, Mary's veg, return. Equals sum, open brackets, fruit. Now I can add the comma in a slightly different way. Once I've selected the first cell, then hold down the control key and click on Alice's meat, and then click on Mary's meat, which is actually empty because she's a vegetarian, and you can see the formula has picked up B4, B9, B14. So non-consecutive cells, and these cells can actually be ranges, so you could add a one range and then another range together by highlighting the range, highlighting the second range, and there's no limit. So you can have lots of non-consecutive cells or non-consecutive ranges. Equals sum, open brackets, first cell, second cell, third cell, fourth cell, etc. Press return and let Excel put the close bracket on for me. Now the last little thing that I would like to go through with the sum function is its quick ability at adding up. Well, if we go to the quick sheet, you'll see here we've got some very similar data to the retail sales sheet, where we've got 8 shops, 7 days of the week, and we would like totals for each column and totals for each row. This can be achieved with 2 mouse movements. First mouse movement is to highlight all of the cells plus the empty column plus the empty row. If you don't highlight the empty column and the row, it won't do what we want it to do. Then go to the auto sum, so this is only the second mouse movement, and click. And it places in the sums for each of the rows and the sums for each of the columns. And they are formulas. You can soon check by clicking into each cell. If I undo and only highlight the cells, so I'm not highlighting the empty column and the empty row, and choose the auto sum key, you'll see that it only assumes you want to add down. It doesn't assume you want to add across. So undo. So it is vital that you highlight the empty column at the end and the empty row to make sure that it knows you want to add across and down. One click on auto sum and the correct functions are placed in. So that's the sum function, the most used function, the one you will spend a lot of your time working with.